Well, I mean, they started as being the only way that we could get real live sort of feedback, and now that's changed. Obviously, Facebook and various other bits and pieces now seem to be just as capable of it. But the forums really were the point at which we could get feedback, live feedback, post-event feedback, pre-event feedback, and there's nothing better really. I mean, of course, I've got to try and work with Neil in order to make sure that we put on a great festival, and we have to take the decisions that we think are right ultimately. But the feedback and the input's really, really valued. So that's why it's important. I think the Radio 1 stage excels year on year, really, and the Radio 1 stage really is an opportunity for bands to demonstrate that they've taken a massive step up, really. Interesting that that feedback's been there. Because the programming of it was quite interesting. Too many DJs headlining. A lot of people were surprised at that. Obviously, Neil and I thought it was absolutely appropriate. I think, but for a dance act to, be headlining the Radio 1 NME stage was, certainly some people were like, what's going on here? It's like, well, this works, this is our audience, this is the audience, and too many DJs. I thought that was a stunning set, personally. Jane's Addiction, surprised that people thought it worked really well when Jane's Addiction didn't take to the stage. And they were there, they were in the dressing room, and decided that Perry's voice wasn't up to it. That's not. I mean, we as festival organisers got some criticism for that. I can't imagine why anybody would criticise me for that. It's not my voice, it's not my decision, it's entirely Perry's decision. And so it's interesting that you say that everybody's, that there's been positive feedback at the same time as, we got quite a lot of stick for that, and I didn't think it was appropriate that we got stick for it, but we did. So yeah, I think just looking at the lineup, overall, I mean, Crystal Castles, Bombay Bicycle, Glassjaw, White Lies, Nora and the Whale. There's the Streets making their last ever performances type of stuff. I mean, yeah, there was a lot there actually. Yeah, I mean, Reading sold out. I mean, it was a great festival, and it's very difficult to, I think people can be over analytical about what's successful and what isn't successful. Ultimately, a festival's successful on personal levels. It's about what individual people get out of it, and that's really the definition of success. To use the definition of success that 80,000 people thought it was great, or one, it's really only important to the one that thinks it's great. If they think it was great, then that they think it's successful. So it's quite hard to define what successful is. I thought it was a great year. I thought it was a great festival, and yeah, really happy with it. Yeah, I was mixed about the lineup in a way. I mean, I thought some of it worked, some of it didn't work, and that's always the case. I was. I was nervous about some aspects of it, and that probably bore through. But at the same time, I thought, massive performances throughout the weekend, and there's always massive performances throughout the weekend, and and what is a massive performance would be different to one person, compared to another. I mean, and the amount of massive amount of people saw Bombay Bicycle Club, for instance, in the Radio 1 NME stage, but massive amount didn't, because they weren't bothered about Bombay Bicycle Club. So that's an example of how what's fantastic to one isn't necessarily the ultimate for another. I suppose I hate getting into sort of debates about what a particular sound is, but I suppose if the act's right and it's metal, it's right for us. If it's not, if the act that's right for us isn't metal, then that's the way we go. There isn't a decision to go one way or another in that sense. It's about what's right for the festival that year, or what Neil and I think is right for the festival that year. There won't be a huge amount of metal there this year. There'll be some, but there won't be a huge amount. Well, no. I mean, a festival isn't about making a stand. A festival is not about saying it can only be this. In fact, if anything, the one thing that a festival always has to do is to maintain a relevance to a constituent audience, and of course that constituent audience will evolve and change, but the festival will definitely maintain a relevance. And if somehow Indian rock fall off a cliff, which I don't anticipate, during the next 6 to 9 months, or even the next 6 to 9 years, quite frankly, we would have evolved along whatever the music genres that are coming through are. We're not going to become a dance festival, but we're not about making a stand about a particular genre. We're about creating a great weekend. It's interesting. I hadn't picked that up, and I do. I say I have a whole raft of people that work on the sound, who are constantly monitoring the sound all of the time, and they didn't. None of them fed back that there was any sort of deficiency in any area. I spent a lot of time in the arena, in the public areas of all the arenas, all the stages, and I didn't notice it. Neil Pengelly does the same. We don't spend all of our time behind stage. We spend quite a lot of it out front. I've not noticed that. I'll look at it again. I'll listen to it again this year, but it's not my experience. But I'm glad somebody's feeding it back, because if there is a deficiency, I'll correct it. Yeah, I would actually. I am thinking of changing the screens this year. So I don't know about the long vertical Isle of Wight screens, but I'm certainly considering changing the screens this year. So it's a good pointer. But I didn't realise the screens we use, because they are quite high. I didn't realise that if you were either very short or very tall, that you wouldn't be able to see them. But perhaps if you're very short, you couldn't. Yeah, I was aware that it ran out. The guy that brews it, Hector, a friend of mine, thought that he had loads. Obviously, he hadn't been to Reading before, and that's the reality of it. I did say, whatever you think loads is, add quite a big bit to it. And he said, yeah, I've done that, and I still think I've got loads. Obviously, Reading proved it wrong. I don't think he'll be taken by surprise again. There will be more. I think there'll be a couple more rail ales there this year. I'm going to say next year, but